everybody. Welcome to the CCHA Show, our second episode of the year. And we have a first-timer and a veteran, and they're both named Matt. Matt Pocket, Matt Pocket, color commentary and radio. They run the coaches show up there for Lake Superior State. Matt, thanks for coming on again.
Great to be back, as always.
In full color here. He's wearing the Lake Superior State colors. Can't knock that. And then Matt Dean, recently named the new play-by-play voice of Minnesota State Mavericks. Thanks for coming around on such quick notice, Matt Dean, and welcome to the CCHA.
Yeah, thank you guys. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, we are live for folks. If you're listening to this in the podcast, we do this live on Mondays. The time may vary. You can find it if you're a subscriber to the CCHA YouTube channel, but we do a live recording of this podcast, and we also have a couple of interviews coming up today. Dennis Williams, first-year head coach, kind of second time around, former Bowling Green Falcon, now leading the Falcons, off to a good start. We'll get to their start in a minute. And then I talked to Trevor Tallene, sophomore defenseman for Ferris State. They picked up a pair of unofficial shootout wins, but ties. We'll get into all those things as we go here. Let's start things out and go over last weekend. And we'll start in the UP. Matt Pocket, Lakers against number 4, Michigan State. Really, Friday could have gone either way, and we'll get into that. The 2-1, a loss in overtime for the Lakers against number 4, Michigan State. Second night, Saturday, wasn't, Michigan kind of forced, put their foot down a little bit on Saturday. But let's start with Friday. Rourke Appleby and the tremendous performance he put on and could have won the game, a couple of posts in there. But we'll get your take on it, Matt Pocket.
Well, I think you're going up against the number 4 team in the country. There's about, when you just run the numbers, right? According to the preseason poll, 60 teams aren't supposed to be as good as this Michigan State team, right? They're up there for a reason. And you can see their skill, right? Isaac Howard, the first-round pick from a couple of years back by the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's something else. I don't like playing him. I don't think many other teams in the country are going to like playing him either, because he's absolutely magnificent. Great instincts, an incredible shot. That's a really well-coached team with a ton of talent that looks like they're going to be deep. I think they definitely appear to be on that track to being a national title contender. And on Friday night, the Lakers skated with them really for about 55 minutes in that game, and Michigan State started to pour it on a little bit late. You can just see the shots on goal totals in the third period alone. Most of their shots came in that frame. 6 in the first, 7 in the second, 25 of them in the third, and a lot of those came in the second half of the period. So Appleby was incredible. Makes his first start. Easton Hess was dealing with a little something, and they get him in on Saturday. But Appleby was incredible. Connor Milburn, who's shortlisted for the Conference Player of the Year in the CCHA, he has a tremendous goal. And then you get into 3-on-3, and it's designed to produce a winner. 3-on-3 doesn't really care. If you've got the puck, you've got the hammer, you've got a chance to win the game. I thought that Laker team skated really well with this team. They showed really quality skating and a lot of strength up and down the lineup, too. I think Brian Huggins really stood out to me. When you watch the tape, I thought he didn't put a foot wrong all night. He looked much stronger than he did last season. We've always known he's a great skater. You go back a couple of years, he got deployed as a forward for the second half of the season during his freshman year. Then they moved him back to defense for last season. And this year, he just looks like he's just grown tremendously stronger. That was big. I felt that this team had a lot of the components that you want to see on tape, individual performances that are going to lead to good things going forward. And then Saturday, Michigan State kind of found their footing. I felt a decent first period for Lake Superior State. And then in that second, they wake up, score a couple of early goals, and put some space between themselves and the Lakers. Like I said, I think that Spartans team looks like a serious national title contender. And I think they will to the rest of the country, too. You don't get to fourth on accident in the preseason polls. But when you see the difference in them night one to night two, once they kind of found the rhythm and figured it out, it was a completely different team, and they're going to be really tough for anybody to stop.
Absolutely. And we have that goal. We'll pull it up here that Milburn scored on Friday.
Even sprung the Lakers for a nice rush there, but how about Venegoni just a couple of minutes later with really the best chance of the game for either team? Can't make contact.
Yeah, the contacts didn't help. Now the puck controlled by Lake Superior. They intercepted a pass, and back comes Tritt now, playing it ahead, getting it on the left side. The big man shoots, scores! Connor Milburn ties the hockey game upstairs on Augustine.
Right over the defender's stick, and then Milburn. Golly, what a finish, Bill.
Matt, you get to hear yourself.
That was nasty. And what blows me away, Perry and Matt, about that goal, we saw this at times last year from him. When he's able to get on that back shoulder and get in that straight line speed going, he's shockingly fast for a guy his size. And we saw him do it to Clarkson, I believe, last year here at Able Arena. He's doing it to Michigan State, and if you go back and watch the start of that play, he's pretty much shoulder to shoulder, or maybe even a quarter step behind the defender. He finishes a full step in front of the defender. I mean, that straight line speed with the puck most of the time too is outrageous, and that's how you get to be, invited to NHL camps, and that's how you get to be preseason player of the year.
Yeah, we've seen him do a number of times last year. There was St. Thomas in the playoffs. That's like his move is that power drive to the net. Matt, Matt Dean, anything to add to? I know you were busy during this game, obviously, but anything to add to what you've seen from the Lakers, either through highlights or through past years or anything?
Yeah, Friday's score just really jumped out to me. I mean, I was following the score during our intermission reports, and he was tied up. Obviously it went to overtime, so I think it's super encouraging performance from Lake Superior State to open up the year. I was doing a Big Ten CCHA crossover series as well too, and I had some notes. The Big Ten went 14-0-1 against the CCHA last year, so Mavericks get a nice split with Michigan, and then a couple of pucks bounce a different way, and Lake Superior State, we're talking about the same thing for them, coming away with that against two top 10 teams, not just middle of the pack Big Ten teams, but two top tier ones who are expected to be NCAA tournament contenders this year. I think it's hugely encouraging, a couple of results that we saw this weekend.
Absolutely. And yeah, Matt was in Ann Arbor, and we might as well jump right into that one. Great start for the Mavs. Actually, that they went down 1-0, so not a great start, but great start as far as the year is concerned, because they bounced right back. Let's take a look at Brian Karabas's tying goal early in that first period. So the Big Ten Network didn't bless us with any broadcasters for Game 1. I know Matt was there on the radio. I saw that Minnesota State put together a nice package, a video package with Matt's calls of all 5 of those Minnesota State goals. So I would go check that out where you can. I think I saw it on social somewhere. But yeah, so nice job. It was actually early second period for that Karabas goal. But when you're watching this game, Matt, when you're calling the game, did you feel like, even though the Mavericks were down 1-0, that they were very much in the game early on, and they had some chance. Really, at the end of the first period, I think they had a good chance to get their first goal.
It really didn't feel like they were in it offensively until really they let in that goal. To be honest, it came less than a minute into the first period. It was on a power play that carried over for Michigan. So I think both teams a little bit were just kind of trying to get their legs under them in the first period. It was a little bit of a kind of stodgy opening 20 minutes without a ton of action. You saw a couple flashes from Michigan. The Mavericks had a couple of decent chances, but everyone just kind of like put their heads down, got to business. It felt like after the opening goal went in, Carabas looked really dangerous throughout the whole game with his speed. Was talking to the head coach Luke Strand a little bit about it after the game, and he's a guy who he was with Minnesota State last year. 2 years before that, really kind of just had a tough time finding playing time when he was at BU. He's a Massachusetts guy, so he's really thrived since wearing a purple and gold sweater. And he looked really up for it, especially in that second period. He ended up setting up the go-ahead goal. Minnesota State would score the next 4 in the game, and really just a complete team performance. 5 different goal scorers. Carabas was a clear standout. But the Mavericks were rolling 4 lines, and all of them looked dangerous with chances to score. So there was no panic. Big road environment in Yost to open up the season, having to go on the road. And this team just kind of locked in and got it done after going down 1-0. So really encouraging performance and hanging on for the win.
Yeah, a bit of a defensive mistake that set up the go-ahead goal for the Mavs, but then they got one from a newcomer. Brett Pitlick, was a late addition to this Mavericks roster, but a lot of people are saying this could be game-changing. He kind of contributes right away, and that kind of proves, at least to those people's thoughts, that he's going to make a big mark. Former Minnesota Golden Gopher.
Yeah, he shared the team lead in points on the Gophers last year, second team All Big Ten guy. And yeah, Pitlick, it was a kind of quiet performance really from him. He kind of just looked like he was getting himself into the game. I've heard multiple people say this about Pitlick, where he's very quiet. He never looks like he's in a rush out there. He has sneaky, really good speed. So he's never pressing, he's never rushing, and then a bad pass lands on his stick, and he's just super calm, composed, right, and puts it away. So that's great to see. You get the monkey off your back with your new team in the first game. Electric player. I mean, this guy, could be a 20-goal scorer for the Mavericks this season. He's slotting into the top 6 forward role. And a couple of Michigan bad defensive mishaps in this game, and Minnesota State just capitalized on a slip by one of their 2-time captain, Truscott, led to a goal, and then that one just an errant pass right to Pitlick, and he put it away. So I was talking to some Maverick fans who've watched a lot more Minnesota State hockey than me, and they were saying those are the kind of goals that we weren't putting away consistently enough last year. So small sample alert, but 2 games into the season, they're putting those prime chances away, first, second attempt, bang, bang to get a big win.
I think what impresses me about that too, and I don't know if it's just the mics, but Yost gets rocking. I mean, I'm from down in that area originally myself. Boy, it sounds quiet in there when, I mean, you get that quick feeling where everybody in attendance is just kind of disappointed. And then it's like a queasy sort of, what are we looking at kind of sound coming from that building. Was that what it was like in-house?
Yes. And I mean, the crowd was full. They were rocking before the game. It was a fun atmosphere, but definitely, I remember talking about it on the air in the third period. That Pitlick goal just sucked the life out of the place. Because it puts the Mavericks up 2. Michigan fans go nuts when they trimmed it back to a 2-goal lead pretty late, but the Mavericks got another late one. So they just wouldn't let up the 3-goal lead, or the 2-goal lead, I should say. And it really seemed like it took the charge out of the place. So it is a great atmosphere, and to go in and quiet it like that, I kind of understand a little more now when there are certain players that say, I like playing on the road because I like quieting a road crowd
Yep,
instead of, and getting the embrace from your home fans is fun. But there's some guys who just like to play the villain and silence a road crowd. And I kind of get it, because it went from, 100 decibels to 0 pretty quickly a couple times in Ann Arbor on Friday.
Last goal we're going to get to from that game, we're going to show you, is from the league's Rookie of the Week. Made a strong impression. He also had an assist on the last goal of the game. Luke Ashton, the Columbus Blue Jackets pick.
That pass.
Yeah, it was a great play. Yeah, absolutely, all the way around.
And that's
scared.
that's a 6'6", 239-pound 19-year-old freshman. So he's a big dude. Minnesota State were one of the smaller teams in the country. You look at like listed average weight, they were down there. I think they were actually at the bottom of the list last year. So it was an emphasis to add size in the offseason through some incoming freshmen, through a transfer. There's a guy coming in from Arizona State, Cade Alami, who played on Saturday. He's a monster at 6'7". But with no drop off in skill. I mean, that is an elite level. That looks like a forward out there shooting just off the stick from Luke Ashton. So he played a really nice all around game. I thought in both games of that series in Michigan. So that's kind of some top end skill that I think the Mavericks are starting to pull in with Coach Strand as the head coach. So he looked really impressive, and he was another guy, right? 19 years old, playing your first college hockey game at Yost, and he scores a goal like that. That I think that's somebody that Maverick fans are rightfully excited about.
And then just the one goal on Saturday, but it was a nice one. We'll get to it. It was former Ferris State Bulldog Luigi Benincasa getting his first with the Mavericks.
And a 2-1 game.
Yeah, the puck was dumped in, and Tim Lovell went to the bench. Puck wound up behind the net, and Pitlick got there first to Corpy.
Now here's a shot, a goal. Well, there it was. That's a big goal for Minnesota State. It took a wild deflection and went up over the stick side, and it's 2-1.
Yeah, Benincasa just going to.
So at the time, you see on the scoreboard there, it makes it a 2-1 game early in the third period. You're thinking, all right, could this be a repeat of Friday? It didn't turn out to be, because Michigan got the next couple of goals there to put it away. A couple of empty netters, I believe, right, Matt?
Yeah, both were empty nets in the final minute. So kind of changes the final score. But peeking into that, it definitely was a similar game, like 2 early first period goals. Minnesota State tries to claw back in the game. They get that one in a big moment, and it felt like the momentum was swinging in the building. And I think a lot of really cool responses for two guys. We saw the Ashton goal from Friday. You saw the team I had trouble at first at verifying who scored the goal, because the Mavericks were so quick to mob Benincasa. So a lot of new faces coming in. And I think it was cool to see how quickly the team was gelling, obviously getting the result on Friday, but then everybody kind of bear hugging Luigi coming over from Ferris State for his first Maverick goal. So just very calm performance for the Mavericks. They never seemed panicked and never felt like they were out of it, and didn't get the result on Saturday. But that was a big moment in the series for Benincasa to notch his first.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from Dennis Williams, the head coach of Bowling Green. We'll be back here on the CCHA Show in just a bit. All right, that was our break. We heard from Dennis Williams there. We're going to cover the rest of what went down in the league this last weekend. His Falcons, let's go there. Bowling Green with a big sweep of Mercyhurst on the road. First time that the Falcons have started the season 2-0 since 2018-19. That team ended up winning 25 games. If you don't count the COVID year in which they started 2-0, but those were against Adrian, who I believe they're Division 2. Is that right, Matt Pocket?
Division 3.
Division 3, Adrian. Okay.
Division
Oh, yeah.
school.
Okay. Not familiar with Michigan hockey. I should know
Yeah.
that, actually, though, because I used to work in D3 and Division in a split D1, D3. But it was D1 hockey, so I do have my own out there working over at RPI, and that's my weekly mention of the alma mater. Any thoughts on Bowling Green? They didn't lose anyone to the portal. It's kind of well documented. Matt Dean, you can start us off there.
Yeah, I think that's the cool story. You got an alum of Bowling Green, right, coming in, and nobody leaves for the portal. So a lot of like foundational culture seems to be built there with the Falcons. So the fact that they retain all those players, that they have a coach who seems like he's excited to be there for the long haul, and then they're able to get some results too in the opening weekend. I think the momentum is building at Bowling Green, maybe even a little quicker than people thought with the change coming into the year.
Matt Pocket, I know Brody Waters, who was one of the top freshmen in the league. I'm not sure he made the freshman team last year just because it was such a deep freshman class in the CCHA, but he had 3 points on the weekend, 2 goals and an assist. The forward of the week, Brett Foe, had the game winner and the overtime winner on Saturday. He had 9 goals last year, Foe did. He has already 2 in 2 games here. So you're seeing some guys that are continuing to develop and improve on a team where maybe they don't have a top line. I talked to Coach Williams about that in the interview, but they don't have a line that teams are particularly scared of. One group of 3, but it's 9 or even 12 that can put the puck in the net.
Yeah, and I think you go back and look at them the last couple of seasons, and there's been a lot of turmoil for various reasons. You kind of get the feeling that what this group probably needs the most is just some stability, right? That you just come in every day and you know what you're dealing with, and there's not some new looming catastrophe waiting potentially, right? Where it's like, okay, what's next? I mean, and you kind of got that feeling a little bit that, and when you're a part of something like that, right? I mean, whether or not, anything pans out, the fact that that's there and that conversation is taking place, even if it has nothing to do with you, it gets on you, it grinds on you. So I think for them, it's just that consistency that, they show up every day and it's just nice and calm and you go about your business. I think they've got some good talent for sure. They're one of those teams that I could see potentially being a surprise to some people. I think when you look at the middle of the pack in the CCHA preseason poll, there's a couple of teams in there. I could see Lake State finishing a bit higher than that. I could see BG maybe making a little bit of a run as well. I think that team being able to return so many guys, not losing anybody, I think that's a big sign that they believe in each other, that they believe in their new coaching staff, and they're ready to get to work. And I think that bodes well for a program like that.
Absolutely. And, they get a 2-1 win, a close game where Cole Moore makes 32 saves on Friday. And then obviously you get a little bit of a shootout there, but they come back from 3-1 down on Saturday. And, Cole Moore, who kind of was forced into action last year due to injury, was awful close to being on all-rookie team goalie. Maybe he was the all-rookie team goalie, was he? I think he was. Anyway, yeah, I'll confirm that since it's my job. But anyway, no, Cole Moore has been great, and now he's a top half goalie in this conference based on what's that?
He was, yes.
Oh, thank you for
research
fact-checking
department.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's a big kid, and we had him on the show last year. He's great to talk to, so yeah, they have all the elements, right? Some veterans on the blue line as well, to kind of make a run here and make this deep league that much deeper. Bowling Green does. We're gonna move on to Ferris State. They hosted Miami, kind of a rivalry series from the NCHC back in the old CCHA days, right? But the Bulldogs get 2 technically ties as far as the NCAA is concerned. They win the exhibition portion of the shootout there which is fun for the home fans. I know they packed the place on Friday. We're going to hear from Trevor Tallene, sophomore D-man, who was the league's defenseman of the week. And we'll start with Matt Dean here. Any thoughts on the Bulldogs' two positive results, even if they were just ties? They were trailing in each of these games.
Yeah, well, with a team that, kind of got ravaged a little bit by the transfer portal, right? Like we saw the Luigi Benincasa goal for Minnesota State earlier, the goalie that the Mavericks faced on Friday for Michigan was another guy who left from Ferris State. It's good to see them get a good atmosphere facing Miami of Ohio and two ties, scoring some goals, to see some early results, I think, from the team that was picked to finish last. We were just looking at in the CCHA this year, just adding to your case of bottom middle portion of the league might be better than we expected. And there might be some movement in the standings from what we saw in the preseason polls.
And if nothing else, it's the league having a better non-conference record, even if they were ties. You talk about the win that the Mavericks had. Those are positive results. You have a winning record after the first weekend of the season for the CCHA. That's much better than the record you mentioned, at least partially, from the Big Ten side from last year. Matt Pocket, anything about the Bulldogs that you noticed, either from highlights or from the numbers you saw?
Well, I think they got good goaltending out of Noah West, and I think that's going to be key for them going forward. You've had Logan Stein in that net for the last couple of years, and he's he kind of clamped down on that position, and it looked like for a little while you might end up in some sort of timeshare with him and Noah Giesbrecht. Well, then it wound up being Stein. What happens when the man is gone, right? So now Noah West comes in, and he plays pretty well for 2 games against an NCHC foe. So, I think for Ferris, it's, they play to a certain style. They play well at home. They're a tough out. Can they find the offense consistently night to night to take advantage of some good goaltending and be more than just a tough out for somebody? Can you go and consistently put things together? Last year we even saw them take some real surprising games from some teams where it's like, oh, okay, this is a team that's dwelling in the cellar of the CCHA, and then they're going upending the apple cart up at the top of the table. Can they do that a bit more often? Because if they can put that together, yeah, they're another team that can climb up the rankings a little bit. If not, then, it might end up being a little bit of a struggle.
Caden Galt, 1 goal, 1 assist. He was +2 on the weekend. You have guys like Jacob Adal, a couple assists, +3, that was the best plus minus of any CCHA player. I know that Ashton reached that mark as well, and Tallene, who was the defenseman of the week. He had 2 goals, led the league in block shots with 8, +3. Pretty easy call there for Tallene. Like I said, we're going to hear from him in just a few minutes here. Yeah, it's a positive certainly for Ferris with Matt Dean mentioned all the losses they had as far as the roster was concerned, to be able to put that kind of effort together against a Miami team who's in the NCHC. And I know they had a down year last year as well. I think they only won 1 game in conference, but they're still up to play, and they gave it their best there. And then some single games on Saturday we want to get to. We'll just mention the exhibitions that St. Thomas beating Manitoba 4-2. You have Michigan Tech playing Northern Michigan in an exhibition game, which is always interesting. As a Youper, Matt Pocket, what do you take from that 4-3 Tech win, if anything?
Well, I do have to clarify, being born downstate, I have been told that I will never be a Youper. There is no possibility. I don't even know if my grandkids would theoretically be eligible or not. So,
okay.
So just to, before I offend,
I think a generation gets you in. But anyway, go ahead.
Right. So, it might be called an exhibition game, but I mean, that's the real McCoy for both of those teams. And I think that's good, right? You're able to pack the house early on in the season. You're able to get big game intensity right out of the gate against somebody that you're going to have to play again a few more times this year. I like scheduling those rivalry games as kind of a, maybe you want to call it a warm-up or whatever, but we talk about getting your legs under you, and I don't know if there's a better way to do that than to go up against somebody that you hate, you have history against, you want to find that game speed as fast as you can. How else? I mean, what better way is there? You see some teams, they like to schedule, they like to schedule an out-of-conference cupcake and, we'll get some reps in and that kind of thing. No, I don't think that prepares you for the rigors of a conference season the same way that looking across from your hated rival is going to. You can't match that intensity, especially early on in the year.
Matt Dean, anything to take away from that exhibition game in particular?
Yeah, I think I did not properly note that was an exhibition game when I was scanning the scores of my intermission report on Saturday. I don't think my brain can process Michigan Tech and Northern Michigan playing an exhibition game. I've been up to a game at Tech before, and I remember one of my favorite things was the student section would just start chants about how much they hate Northern Michigan when they weren't even playing Northern Michigan. So yeah. I can't even process. My brain couldn't comprehend that was an exhibition game. I didn't even realize that. And what a way to get up for the start of a season with that kind of environment. So that's fun. And I'm sure we're going to get to some other big results from exhibitions as well, too. But yeah, you schedule a cupcake for a nice warm-up game. Is that what the plan for UND was?
that's a nice teaser. I do want to get one goal from that game just so people can kind of take in the atmosphere if they weren't able to check it out.
Here comes Koskopirti weaving his way in now, wraps it around. Jensen's going to try to hold it in. Had to do it on his backhand. Gets it nicely back to the point for Campbell. Campbell to Jensen, another left-handed shot. Walks in, a shot, scores! Jensen! His first goal as a Husky! And Michigan Tech with a power play, tally go up 3-1 with 10:23 left to go in the third period.
The blue line, and they pinched off the lane. So he immediately brought it to the net with his head up, shot it real quick. Again, this was not a hard shot, but he caught it off quick and looked like the 5-hole.
Beautiful. I love how he sells high and then just shifts his hips low. You can't tell me that's an exhibition game, right? I mean, maybe somebody doesn't count it on the schedule and it doesn't count for your record, but the coaches want to win it. The players want to win it. Everybody is going full speed. And that's what really matters, right? That intensity. And you can't mimic that against somebody that you just have no connection with, or, what's a reason for playing them? Well, somebody signed a contract 10 years ago, right? I mean, now we gotta play him, I guess. You can't match that. And I think that experience is so valuable for players, for coaches. You really learn things because you're tested by fire in that environment.
Yeah, and then you have the woman giving the John Michael Wozniak Jordan shoulder shrug in the crowd, which actually was my favorite part of the whole game. But Matt, as you said, you've been up to Houghton, to the MAC. It's a fun place to watch a hockey game. I'm sure I need to get up there. They got a flag for every player's hometown, seemingly, and just like no other really hockey rink and what college hockey is all about.
Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic place to watch a game. I mean, if that's how they pack it out and that's how it sounds for an exhibition game, I can't wait to see what it's going to be like for a regular season game later this year.
To the game that Matt was talking about, it was North Dakota hosting Augustana for the first time ever, and it was an exhibition game, which I'm sure every North Dakota fan will tell you if you ask them about it, because Augustana went up there and won 4-1. Brett Meerman had 2 goals in the game, both of them from about a foot and a half from the net, but those are the kind of tough goals you got to get, especially in a building like that. And I have them all, but we'll show one before we get to talking about this one.
That's Jaden Jubinville, one of 8 new freshmen on this roster. Now Brett Meerman coming the other way for the Vikings. Tied up well. Tanner Komzak getting the job done on defense. Puck not cleared though. Good opportunity in front, and it's Meerman who buries it on the doorstep.
If you want to score goals at this level, Alex, you got to go to the front of the net, and that's exactly what he does. He goes front of net, stops. There's going to be a shot from the point, a rebound, finds some loose change, and he buries it for an easy goal. And I think that puck might have changed just a little bit.
So, yeah. I guess, I guess my thing is this, it might be an exhibition game, but you put the pads on, you put the jersey on, you sold some tickets, you went out and tried. I mean, it happened. It didn't not happen. It's not like, poof, the Men in Black thing happens where you just forget about it and you explain it away as some swamp gas off of Venus, right? Or whatever. No, I mean, you went out there and you played the game and you got beaten. They I think wanted to schedule somebody local, somebody that they figured, hey, we can get a little warm up here against the Cupcake. Well, the Cupcake ate you whole. Augustana looked good. It has to be said. And I think that's a program that's going to make some really big strides year 1 to year 2, but then again, year 2 to year 3.
Matt Dean, anything to add there? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was an exhibition game, but that's the game that everybody was talking about in college hockey over the weekend. A little bit of a lighter schedule in terms of official games, but look at the reactions of the players. We saw it in the goal after the win for Augustana. This was the result everybody was talking about. It's weird to say, but when you're in this early in the process of becoming and then turning into a Division I program, these are early benchmark wins, going up to the Ralph and getting a win against North Dakota. That's tremendous. And hopefully it means, Augustana is ahead of schedule in terms of being a real competitor, been a big one in Division I.
Yeah, if you look at all they had a lot of fifth-year guys that come into that Coach Raboin brought in to his first season there. And I think, even though it's an exhibition, you lose all these guys, these veterans, captains, run a kid from Colgate who was great for them. Just putting those 4 pucks in the net to say, hey, we're not, those guys are all gone, but we still have the ability to score goals. I think that's the most important thing. I think that's true with Northern and with Tech. Is pucks going in nets is a confidence builder. No matter you don't care if it's if you Elias Janssen from Tech, you scored your first 2 goals. I know they don't count for the year, but those are all confidence builders. I think that'll help them down the road. And Tech hoping to not go winless in October, and with all the home games they have, you have to expect them to not be doing that. So 4-1 Augustana in an exhibition. The game that kind of one of the highlights for as far as the CCHA is concerned was Bemidji State up against a formerly ranked UMD. There's a little bit of drama there with Matthias Scholl, starting goalie for Bemidji, going out in the middle of the third period. But they brought in Rathan Robbins, who's a sophomore, and he did such a good job. He got himself an award for the week. It was a very tightly contested award, I will say. A lot of Matt Pocket watched one of the contenders for that Goalie of the Week award. But here are his 3 overtime saves that Robbins made to help him and the Beavers stay in the game long enough to get the win.
Was Flamang going to the net. James picks up the loose puck for UMD. Ahead for Pionk. Back for James. James to the backhand, and Robbins makes another great save.
Ooh. And Robbins just robbed him here. Pretty nice move by James, cutting across and just.
Wolf has Vicenen with him. Decided to shoot, missed the net. And now moving it ahead, Loney, a breakaway for UMD. Loney to win it. The backhand, another great save by Rathan Robbins.
Lonnie just right here, just lost it right there a little bit. Just kind of threw off his timing and wasn't able to probably get the shot that he wanted on Robbins. But
Shagabe, far point. Floats one for James to the backhand between the legs, and a great save by Robbins. What a move from the UMD captain.
And he's even show here, but here's the play that James had. Beautiful pass by Shagabe. James tries to go.
Oh my!
Wow,
that's a tough building too, right?
Oh goodness. Yeah, I love how he takes his angles. He comes way out and challenges high on the breakaway. and then plays that angle well. I mean, you can tell they keep trying different things on him, and he just reads it all so well. He's a guy, I seem to remember, I think we saw him last
You did.
and I liked what I saw out of them. They've had good goaltenders there. Tom Serratori does not recruit meh players. He recruits guys that are good when they get there, and then they develop nicely. And within a year or two, they're just tormenting everybody else. So, Scholl goes out and okay, the next one comes up and the next one's good too. Bemidji State, I think that was important for them because they want to send a warning shot across the bow really for the rest of the CCHA. And I think, the people participating in some of the national polls too, that, listen, we're for real. This is a team that upended Minnesota State and won the league for the first time in what feels like a couple hundred years last year. I think Bemidji State's sitting there just like, hey, we're back. We're doing it again. And maybe, just maybe, even a little bit better this time.
That win helping, the league take a winning record out of the opening weekend. Matt Dean, anything to add there? I'll get to the game winner that their captain put in a second.
Yeah, that's a super skilled UMD team. I mean those guys that were one-on-one with Robbins down the stretch. I mean, that's top end talent. Like you saw the forehand backhand switch, and still he's able to read it there. That's unbelievable. Much to the dismay of other CCHA opponents, it seems like goalies just grow on trees out there, Bemidji. So they're not much drop off between number 1 and number 2, if any.
Yeah, Scholl was great too before going out. With about 10 minutes left. I didn't show you any of those saves from that Robbins made in the third, but he made a number of them. He did give up the one goal that tied the game, but you see enough rubber, you're going to allow one in those cases. Here's the game winner from Jackson Judding. Kind of a busted play along the wall, but in overtime, that's all you're kind of looking for.
Far corner, 1:20 to go. Flameng has it, defended by a couple Bulldogs. Pocket picked by Zamplant. He loses it to Judding. Judding, and he scores! Jackson Judding, the captain, wins it for Bemidji State, 4-3 in overtime.
Yeah, just a wily move there by Judding, Troy Judding, and just kind of picked the pocket there of Zamplant, moves in.
So they mentioned Troy, the uncle of Jackson, who used to coach over there, UMD. So, big win. I think it's their first since 2016 in Duluth. Might have been overall. I should get my facts straight here, but it's been a while since they've won in that building, the Bulldogs, and they play their rivals consistently, whether it's North Dakota, UMD, the Gophers. Their schedule is loaded because that's what their fans want to see, and when they can get the wins in these buildings, it's all the better for them and for the CCHA.
Yeah, and
lastly,
like I said too, Barry,
go ahead.
I think it's a real warning sign to everybody else that hey, we're here, we're legit, right? We've got a goalie who makes those 3 saves, and then we're able to capitalize on a mistake going the other way. And we talked about it earlier. That's kind of it, 3-on-3. For people who aren't traditionalists, right, or who are traditionalists. I mean, a lot of people don't like it because 3-on-3 is designed for a mistake to be made.
Right.
It's designed for somebody to slip and fall, and boom, that's your game winner. So there's always going to be a goat. There's going to be a victim. There's going to be somebody who played well enough to deserve a better fate on the night that now you're looking at going, wow, you made a mistake on that play. But that's what it's built for. It's supposed to make players mess up so that we can get this over with and go home within the next hour. I mean, which is why I've kind of liked 3-on-3 a little less over time. I think a lot of those guys deserve a better fate.
Right. And it's a lot of it goes into, we can get into that in another part of the show, maybe how much weight you put into an overtime win versus a regulation win. That's kind of changed over time. Right. And so it sounds like you're on the side of giving less weight to an overtime win than being more closer tied to a tie. But yeah, like I said, we can get into that. Last game of the weekend before we take a quick break here is St. Cloud. This is yesterday. St. Cloud State winning 1-0 at St. Thomas. It was that kind of game. Chances both ways, but really a good defensive battle, and this is the identical score that we saw that these two teams played last year in Mendota Heights after the Tommies won 5-4 in overtime in the opening game of that home-and-home series last year. So they put a home-and-home last year. St. Thomas with a big win, 5-4 in OT, and then a 1-0 at home. We just saw the latter part of that repeated here with St. Cloud. Both teams ranked when this game was played in the USA hockey poll, but I believe the Tommies are going to fall out of it. I think there were 20. But no, it's not a bad showing, but obviously maybe a little bit of rust to shake off for the Tommies, at least offensively. Matt Dean, you want to get us fired up there?
Yeah, I agree. They were the banner carrier for the CCHA, cracking into one of the two rankings. And yeah, I've been run into a tough defensive game decided by a goal. Not a terrible result, but like we talked about, I think there were a lot of other surprising CCHA teams maybe getting better results than we expected. So overall, it's a good weekend for the league. The banner carrier in terms of the one with the number next to their name didn't get it done, but the good rising tide overall for the league.
Matt Pocket.
Yeah, St. Thomas is predicted to be one of the favorites in the clubhouse, and certainly a skilled group of guys. You've got guys like Malmquist, the Leylands. You've got Cooper Gay, who's just huge. I mean, he's got game-changing size. Gleason, Gower, Foley, Bracchini. I mean, they've got a lot of guys on this team that you look at. Lucas Wallen led them in scoring last year. He's back for more this year. They kept a lot of their key parts up and down their order, and that will make them certainly a very dangerous team. You go up against St. Cloud, play them 1-0. And I think that St. Cloud series last year was, to go back to the metaphor, that was the warning shot to the rest of the league that, okay, this team is not just going to be pretty good. I think we all felt they were going to be pretty good last year. That was when we were all like, they're going to be really good, aren't they? Uh-oh. And I think that's probably going to be the case again this season. So, I think there's a lot that you learn in how you get to a result, not even just what the result is. You can look at a scoreline and you can learn a few things by it. I think how you get there is also pretty important. Like with Minnesota State, right, going to Michigan and, outshot for a good chunk of that game, but yet very much alive, very much in it. And, as the game wears on, very much more in control of the game. Despite, if you look at a box score, you might go, one-way traffic, how'd they lose that game? Well, but you watch it play out and, because Minnesota State managed that game incredibly well. So I think for St. Thomas, yeah, they lose, but looked good in a loss. And to me, that's one of those things where, okay, your stock probably doesn't drop very far, if at all. It's kind of, all right, we knew you'd be good. This showed us you were pretty good.
Great. We're going to take a quick break here and hear from Trevor Tallene. We'll be back to quickly preview. We've been taking too much time. Quickly preview next weekend in just a few. Back here on the CCHA Show. Good to hear from Trevor Tallene, sophomore for the Bulldogs, and he had a great weekend offensively and defensively. The league's defenseman of the week. A lot of hockey coming up, and it's coming up in a hurry. Short week for Bowling Green. They host Robert Morris on Thursday. Then they wrap things around and play on Sunday an exhibition against Simon Fraser. And again, we don't have to focus on any of these games going on. Home opener at the slate on Thursday against Robert Morris. Bowling Green looks to keep it going. We'll call it quick hitters as far as this goes, and just a couple of words on each of these series going on. Some of them are individual single games as well. Matt Pocket.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how, of course, from a Lake Superior State perspective, how this team rebounds this weekend. You get the U.S. Under-18s, you get Simon Fraser, who is the team making the circuit right now across the country. They're on everybody's schedule, it feels like. Northern Michigan, you get Colorado College. Okay, what is this NMU team going to look like? I think a lot of people are very down on them because of the uncertainty. And I think a lot of people have kind of confused uncertainty with negative certainty, right? Because we don't know, that must mean it's bad. The thing with Northern right now is they've had so much change and so much turnover in their roster and their coaching staff. We don't know. We have no idea what they're going to be at this point. So they're one that I'm going to be paying a lot of attention to in the next couple of weeks here. Bemidji gets St. Cloud. That will be tremendous value for entertainment, as they say. Minnesota State takes on Merrimack, who lost to Stonehill. Now they had to play an emergency backup goalie, but they did lose to Stonehill in overtime. So, what does Stonehill look like, right? Ferris State gets local rival Western Michigan. They're not too far apart from each other, so we'll be keeping an eye on that too. You
don't have to run down every game. I was just gonna go through them in order, but that's okay. You were on a roll, so I didn't want to stop you. So Matt Dean, Minnesota State gets to be home. You get to call your first couple of home games. That's going to be exciting against a team from Hockey East, nonetheless.
Yeah, it should be packed. Should be really fun in Mankato, and I think this is truly Matt Pocket touched on it a little bit. This is one of the fascinating stories in college hockey right now. Is Merrimack starting student manager Spencer Marquis, who started on Sunday. So this is truly going to be a day-to-day story to follow leading up to Friday. So they've got their main goalie, Lundgren, who is supposed to be suspended for the first 2 games of the season. So that would mean he's still not going to be available Friday for the first game against the Mavericks. Their other 2 rostered goalies are injured right now. I don't know what the status of those injuries are. Are those guys going to be ready for Friday? Right now, as of yesterday, Merrimack had 1 goalie available, and he was the student manager. So that could be chaotic on Friday, on top of everything else that'll be going on in Mankato for the first home game.
Matt, do you have any eligibility left? They might be pulling you out there.
I think I do. I can fill up the goal, but that's about it. I got some size, no other translatable skills that would help in that regard.
Of these NCHC, CCHA series, which are you most likely going to be paying attention to? You got Western Ferris home and home, CC hosting Northern, as Matt Pocket mentioned, and then you have, and I guess we can include Alaska, who's without a conference, headed to Tech, and then we'll focus on those, and we'll get to the last few games of the weekend. There, anything stand out to you as things you're looking for? I think that's a no. Well, I'm sure they're all going to be intriguing. Northern going to CC is a place where last year Augustana was able to come away with an overtime win, or might have been a regulation.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see that one. For me, the big question mark is NMU. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of people look at the Cats this year and just go, well, all this changeover means it's going to be a tough year. I don't think it necessarily means that. I mean, that's entirely possible, but you sometimes get a group of guys, all these new, fresh faces in there. There's some talent, there's some skill. You get a new coach who just says, what the heck? Let's go get them. And sometimes you end up with something a little bit better than what you thought you were going to get. So, we don't know much about this group at this point. That doesn't mean anything good or bad. It just means we have no knowledge base.
Yeah, it was a regulation win, 4-3 for Augustana at CC last year. They also tied Denver and beat them in the exhibition shootout, who went on to win the national championship. Michigan Tech, who's gone up to Fairbanks recently. They get the Nanooks at home. That's always an interesting series. It seems like they play enough where they're not a conference series, but if you play them every year, then these little rivalries start to develop. LIU headed to Augustana for the first time ever, first meetings between these 2 teams. The Sharks, they have a fun color scheme and logo. And they play, I think, in the New York, they used to play in the New York Islanders practice facility. That's the last time RPI played them. They did anyway. I mean, that's a chance for the Vikings. This is a team that, we're not going to look at the odds or anything like that, but this is a team that they should fare well against, you would seem.
They scored 4 against North Dakota. So what, are we putting them up for 7 or 8 maybe against Long Island? That's how that works, right? The transitive property, that's exactly how it works. It never fails.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hockey math works every time, doesn't it?
And then the other NCHC game that I failed to mention was, and I think you guys did, Matt might have, St. Cloud State, Bemidji. Yes, he did. Matt Pocket did mention that. Home and home excitement there. You get Bemidji's home opener on Saturday against the Huskies there after they go to St. Cloud on Friday. And then last but not least, you have Vermont and St. Thomas playing too. I think the Tommies went to UVM, went to Burlington last year. Disappointing. I think that was the series I think that was tough because I think the Tommies were on the rise. I think it was just out of holiday break, and they just went up there and kind of laid an egg against Vermont. So they kind of owe them something coming back here to the Twin Cities. So it'll be interesting to see how the Tommies kind of respond, not only to last weekend, but to the last time they played Vermont. So this will be the kind of return trip for the Catamounts there. So a couple of Hockey East CCHA matchups here. Merrimack coming to, Mankato, and then Vermont coming here. So you don't get it. The thing about the pairwise is, and there's a lot of numbers that go into it, and I'm not smart enough to understand it, but I do know that if you don't play a conference very often or, very many times in a season, that those games mean quite a bit. And not saying that, that Vermont's a slouch. They're very good. Or Merrimack, for that matter. They're in the NCAA tournament not long ago. But these are important games, not only for these two programs in the CCHA to get wins and to get, pairwise points, but just because we're not going to see a lot of Hockey East.
And here I was hoping that you would give us a complete breakdown of exactly the mathematical formula behind pairwise.
It's way too early, and I don't know.
I mean, you went to RIT, so I mean, you're smart. You're good at this, right?
Did you do that on purpose, Matt?
Maybe
confusing RIT and RPI. All right. Well, I'm assuming you did. Matt,
yeah,
that's a very common misconception that I'm
long day.
Matt, Dean, what do you think about this before we get out of here?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, they're not like the CCHA teams are not going to cross over with the Hockey East very often, like you said, right? So in the Mavericks case, Merrimack might not be one of the top dogs in the Hockey East, but if they go get their clocks cleaned in conference play by some of those top 10 teams that we see up in the rankings every year, that can be a stain on your pairwise record if you lost to a team that then goes maybe gets blown out by BU or BC later in the year. So it's always important. It's a program that's been to an NCAA tournament recently. So all these crossover games are big, not just for, the perception of the league nationally, but for real stakes of, where you end up in the pairwise rankings that ultimately determine where you're going in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and the league wants to be a 2 or even 3 bid team or league, and you don't get there without taking care of business in these situations here. I know, Michigan Tech made it as an at-large a couple of years ago based on the fact that they beat BU when they were a top 5 team in a neutral site game in Arizona, and they swept St. Lawrence. And these are the games that can go a long way to determining. Now, you do have to take care of business in league. You can't just say, "Oh, we went 6-0 or 6-2 or whatever in non-conference, so we're punching our ticket to the tournament." It's still, you got to win your league games, but you can't do one without the other, and that's certainly the case here. Before we go, guys, I'll give you a chance to make any kind of plugs so where we can find you going forward. Anything, any social media or anything that you guys are on. Otherwise, just, I know you guys are both on the radio, so we'll start with Matt Pocket. And where can folks hear from you about speaking on Lake State hockey?
I do a bit more Facebook these days than anything, but even then, I don't post a whole lot. Want to send me a message or whatever? That's cool. I can't remember the last time I tweeted.
That's okay.
I've kind of become a hermit a little bit. I'm like a recluse, right?
Okay.
You know, when it
you on
comes
this, we pull you out to come on the CCHA show, though.
Right. You know, we break glass in case of emergency. So that's kind of me. But yeah, today's hits 99.5 Yes FM for the Call of Laker hockey action throughout the season with myself and Bill Crawford, who's going on. By the way, you know, he was recognized at Able Arena over the weekend for 45 years on the air here at Lake State. Holy Toledo.
No, it's impressive. We got to get him on here. We got to get Bill on the show.
Let's do it.
Matt Dean, anything to plug before we go? You guys are home finally here.
Yes, home games coming up. We will be broadcasting every Maverick men's hockey home game, KTOE. Sounds like Cato. You can find us, on iHeart, all your favorite radio listening
online.
apps.
You can listen online.
And I am still active until Twitter crumbles, which I'm waiting for any day. But at Matt Dean Guy, as long as that social media platform is still active, that's where you can find me as well too.
Perfect. Well, we want to welcome Matt Dean to the CCHA, as I mentioned, and Matt Pocket still hanging around with myself. We'll have these guys back later in the year to talk some more CCHA hockey. But until then, thanks for listening, everybody, and I'm sure we'll look for you guys at a rink sometime soon.